Let's talk. What you wanna talk about? Let's talk. What you wanna talk about? Kitchen talk. Let's talk. What you wanna talk about? Kitchen talk. Let's talk. Conversations that cool. Kitchen talk. Let's talk. What you wanna talk about? Kitchen talk. Let's talk. Conversations that cool. Let's talk. What you wanna talk about? Let's talk. What you wanna talk about?
Hey.
What's up?
I know, I miss you.
I know.
Like when we don't get on, I really miss you guys, you know?
Hey.
And then when I get on and y'all don't get on, I really miss you guys.
Oh.
It's like our weekly date night. And then,
right. Thursday night is on and popping in the kitchen.
in the kitchen. Welcome. This is Kitchen Talk CTC.
Conversations that cook.
And that is what they do. I love coming here every week at 9:00, sharing some time with you guys. So, of course, Fransley Moist is in the building with me tonight.
No introductions needed.
Been hanging out with me for about 6 years now. Woo! It's been a minute.
Yes, sir.
It's been a minute. But I have enjoyed every minute of it. Like, oh my goodness, it's like the best time. And I'm not just saying that because, I'm the creator and the executive producer. I mean, it really is a good time. It really is.
The beauty of this is that we watch people grow and matriculate.
Right.
It's like cataloging. And I'm like, man, Darrick was just in school. Now he's graduated and time is a beautiful thing.
So we have with us tonight, returning to Kitchen Talk, Pastor Darrick McGhee Sr., affectionately called by his people, my sister is one, Pastor D.
Good evening.
She rags on you all the time.
Awesome. I'm very honored by that. That's awesome. Praise the Lord. And all sincerity, praise the Lord.
Absolutely. So we're in the kitchen again tonight. This is one of our passionate topics that we talk about. We try to bring it to the forefront, make sure everybody keeps it in their mind, and it is the power of the vote. Right. We gotta get it. I don't care what you vote for. You just need to vote. And stop. He's gonna get started already. Listen, I'm saying I personally, Lisa, do not care what you vote for. And I'm not saying I don't care like I don't care. I just want you to vote. I want you to vote. Stop, friends. Just stop right there. Just at that level. Now.
No, I'm sorry.
You know what? I thought you being here would help me out a little bit, but see how he do?
No. That's put us in this situation for all these years.
True.
It's because we keep telling people just vote. No, you got to know what you're voting for and who you're voting for and why it's important to get out to vote, right? Absolutely. So it's not just, I went in and did my job. No, you got to be informed. You got to, and in some cases, you got to be a part of that process, right?
I totally agree. I
love it. Yeah, go and vote, and it's all good.
Totally agree.
But we got to know what and why. We can't just act without knowing how important this responsibility is.
Right.
Going back to my Spider-Man. With great powers come great responsibility.
Responsibility, yes.
And we all have that superpower to go in and make a difference. A difference that may last more than just a year, 2 years. You talking about
they last 4 years and beyond.
And beyond.
Because they govern your life. These decisions govern your life.
Correct. Yeah. Some of them we could change, you know, in 2 4 years. Some of them you can't change. You gotta wait.
Yeah.
That's how damaging it is, and what they do when they do get in power. So
but some of them that need to be done, and you can't change them easily, is good too.
I agree. Okay. And there's some that they don't do at all. So you voted somebody in place, and you said, "Hey, we need you to change some gun laws." That policy is still on the table, baby.
When I tell you. So just before we get too far in, I wanted us tonight to talk about the importance or what a primary is. Like a lot of times we just wait for the president election or the governor election. So I wanted us to get in a little bit to when I reached out to Pastor D, I was like, I want to talk about the primaries. So just from your political science background from the Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University.
Yeah, that's right.
Just give us a small or a synopsis definition of what the primaries are and what they kind of do.
Yeah, so like this year coming up, right? This November, we're in a presidential election year. We're in a gubernatorial election year. And so this qualifies as midterm elections. And what midterm basically means is where Florida is always, our gubernatorial race is always 2 years off from the presidential. And how that benefits Florida is typically the turnout you see in a presidential election, you don't see in a midterm election. People usually take these off, and it really benefits the incumbent party, right? Yesterday, I saw a tweet that Commissioner Nikki Freed put out there that says it's been over, I think, 8,500 some number days since a Democrat's been in the governor's mansion, right? So I've been doing this now 20 plus years. My entire time doing policy and politics in Florida, Republicans have run the governor's mansion, right? And so you think about that. So what the primary is, in every election cycle, you have two times to vote, right? You have the primary, which is usually going to be in the month of August, right? So the primary really is those who are traditionally registered as Democrats or Republicans. There usually is going to be a person or persons who are running for that party's ticket. Case in point, right now for gubernatorial election, you have Nikki Freed and Charlie Crist both vying for the Democratic tickets nomination to run as a Democratic candidate for governor. And so in August, those who are registered in one of the two main parties, Democrat or Republican, will have a chance really to vote for one of those individuals. Now, if you're independent, you still have a chance to vote, but you're voting really more for down ballot items. You're unable in the primary really to vote for a Democrat or Republican because it's not going to be on your identified ballot. But the primary really is it's really we do a primary to be the narrowing race. But that means you take it from out here and you narrow it down here. Once the primary is over, now you have identified persons. So now you'll have a Charlie Crist, for example, and a Ron DeSantis as your two opponents running for governor. And so the primaries are important because in many races you'll have two to many others running in that race. Let me use a one for us. House District 8, the Representative Ramon Alexander seat. As we know, he has made it known he's not going to run for re-election. Won't get into any of the reasons why. But right now, we're sitting on 7 to almost 8 persons who have filed for that seat. That seat is a traditional Democratic seat. And so in some primaries, if it is a heavily Democratic or heavily Republican seat in that primary race in August, the person who wins out may ultimately end up being the elected person for that seat. And so for this seat, House District 8 right now, there are no Republicans who have filed to run for that seat. As a result of that, whomever ends up winning in August may end up being the designated person for that seat. Now, here's what the opposing party always does. In order to get, let's say a seat is really 100% Democratic seat, what Republicans typically do is they will find and have somebody file to run as a Republican in House District 8, for example, knowing this person has no way they're ever going to win. But that strategy is put in place for two reasons. The first reason you put it in place is now you force that race to go to the main election, which is in November. That's the first reason. Second reason you do that is now you want to make the majority seat, for example, Democrats in this regard, now to spend money they never planned on spending money in that seat. It's very strategic. You see it throughout Florida. Republicans are really good about doing this because they steal a lot of money, and so they'll drop somebody in there. This person never campaigns. They never walk door to door. Never seen on any posters, any billboard. But they've qualified based on either they paid the fee or based on signatures. And so all of a sudden now that person is the designated Republican nominee, which forces that race now to become a November race. Then the last way a primary becomes a general race is Leon County is a good example where you have to hit 50+1, right? You have to have 51% majority vote. And so if you don't, basically like in the local races, it'll force a runoff of the two top candidates. So primaries are very important. What I like to say to people is, as we mentioned earlier, we have to know, and I would say the why. Why are we voting? And know the history behind the struggle for us as Black people to be able to vote. Know who you're voting for. Which means you got to do your research and then know what you're voting for. Know for the who, what do they stand for? You guys referenced earlier about the gun laws, right? What people sometimes don't realize is we spend so much time on presidential, gubernatorial, and mayoral that we ignore judicial name. We ignore, Congress, city, commission, legislator. Those are the ones who are passing the laws that have the major impact on us. Just other day, right, Mitch McConnell was on national television basically saying we'll never change gun laws in America. Right. He boldly saying this after 3 national incidences of gun violence. He's saying we'll never change gun laws. Why is that? He's saying that because he knows it's nearly impossible to undo it. Right. And so this is why the voting matters. So with primaries, my advice is simple.
I got to stop you for a second. Go ahead. It's not that he knows it's impossible. They don't want it to make it possible.
Yeah. So let me explain this. When I say they know it's impossible, what I'm saying is they're banking on the ignorance of the citizenry to put forth the effort. That's what they're saying. If you look at our national leaders, Democrats and Republicans, that's Pelosi, that's McConnell, all of them are 80+ years old, right? So when I'm 80+ years old, I hope I'm on somebody's beach relaxing. What they're purposely doing is staying in office because they understand where the power lies, right? And so they don't want to relinquish that control. But I say to everybody is never let election season come and you not be involved in it. You have to do your research, you have to educate yourself. And the last thing I'll say, I know Pastor Scott's on, is I think this is important for us as Black people. In the Black community, when you think back on civil rights movement, I always say this to people, it was bigger than I have a dream speech, right? We talk about social empowerment, economic empowerment, spiritual empowerment. Why is that important? Because a part of that movement was also educating us as a people on voting right. What are our rights when voting? When you go to ballot, how to conduct yourself. For example, in Georgia now, and even in Florida, they've passed laws where they prevent you from even giving water to people in line, right? For fear of you are discriminating or you are incentivizing people to vote a certain way. We have to know these things to make sure things are in their right place. And so for us as a people, we can no longer say my vote doesn't matter, because it definitely matters. And I'll remind everybody that Ron DeSantis beat Andrew Gillum by less than 30,000 votes.
Correct.
And that race really was won, if you redo my research, race was won on one main topic. And that main topic that made the difference in that race was on school choice.
School choice.
Andrew Gillum went public and said that he was going to make sure that he overly funded public schools. He's going to do away with the tax credit scholarships. And 18% of traditional Black Democratic women voters voted for Ron DeSantis for that one reason, is because their children were on scholarship. They were fearful of Gillum making a change. Right. That's how critical races are, right? It could become down to one item on a person's platform that can change everything. So when we sit at home and act like our vote doesn't matter, a non-vote goes in position for the person you don't want to win.
Right.
And then there's a good point. Topics, subject areas. You know, sometimes we miss out on the bigger picture, right? Because we hit in one piece and we miss out on the greater opportunity. So again, we got to know the people that we're putting in place too, the people that we're voting for. So it's a lot more. We've traditionally had to choose between the bad and the ugly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because the good is not in the race. Right.
Right.
So we need the good to get in the race so we can really pick the right person, not just oh well, this is who we got. We got to choose.
Yeah. And we've used that term so much, like, you know, the lesser of the two evils.
Right.
Exactly.
That's how we kind of look at it. But
it's bad because you're still choosing evil.
You're still choosing evil. Exactly.
Right. You're choosing evil no matter what.
I'll still take the lesser.
So let me if I can ask this question, because like one of the things I've been listening to and just hearing that like we as a people, we're not on the same page.
Correct.
And we have so many different things going, you know, and we agree on some things, and some things as a people we don't agree on, we don't believe, and you know, so it's just a lot of different things. So how do you talk to a person when, let's say, for example, and I'm just using that example, a person's traditionally Democrat, but there's so many things going on in the Democratic Party that they don't believe or agree with. You know what I mean? So what if you have that person who's a conservative Democrat? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it seems like the Democratic Party is really pushing, you know, the extreme. When you look at the extreme, it's like they're pushing one thing. Then you look at the Republican Party and you look at the extremes. You see what I'm saying? So how do you get a person who's in the middle and they're stuck saying, like you say, choosing the lesser of two evils, or you know what? I don't want either one of them. How do you, you know what I mean? How do you reconcile that and help a person to see, like you're saying, the big picture and help them to focus in on what they need to do?
So that's a great question.
Yeah, I was about
to
say
that. Let me say something to you too, and I'm going to walk into your response, Pastor Scott. So on Tuesday of this week, the Florida Chamber of Commerce, their political institution, released behind the numbers. And what they did was, I'm looking at it right now on my iPad, they did a voter registration breakdown from the 2020 election to the current moment we're in right now, right? So this was as of April 30th. So in the election of 2020, the Democrats had 5.3 million voters, registrants, right? Republicans have 5.16 million, and the independents was 3.9. In April of this year, Republicans have now surpassed Democrats. So literally in 2 years, Republican registration has surpassed Democratic registration. Republicans are now at 5.1. Democrats are at 5 even. But guess what? The non-party affiliation number has jumped to 4.1 million. Wow. Right? What that's telling us is that people basically have said, I'm sick and tired of both parties. And so I'm going over here to NPA. At the end of the day, they still have their ideology. They may still be conservative or moderate, progressive or far right, but they're saying, I don't want to be a part of a two-party system anymore. I'm now going to run independent. And so now what happens is the two-party system has to now campaign even more aggressively to the NPAs, right? When Governor Scott ran for re-election in 2014, he committed almost 2 to 3 days a week in the I-4 corridor. If you ask why, it's because during that time, the numbers told you that in order for you to win governor in Florida in 2014, you had to sway NPAs. The bulk of your NPAs were in the I-4 corridor with the Orlando, Tampa area. So you had to be able to do that. For the first time in Florida's history, Republicans have out-registered more than Democrats have for the first time in Florida's history, right? So what that's telling me is two things. Number one is telling me is that Democrats have become too comfortable and almost lazy. They're not even doing the registrations anymore, and Republicans are. And then number two, what it tells you is that Republicans have begun to put in front of new registrants issues or items that they know is going to lure them their way. So what you're asking about, Pastor Scott, for example, people are now, you know, there used to be a day where if you were Republican, you voted Republican no matter what, or you Democrat, voted Democrat. Now what people are starting to do is they're starting to look now at issues. And here is why, because it's no longer Republican, Democrat, meaning conservative or liberal. Now you got progressive Democrats, you got moderate Democrats, you got conservative Democrats, you got liberal Democrats, right? That's four different categories. On the Republican side, you got the far right, you got the Trump Republicans, you got conservative Republicans, you got moderate Republicans. And so now I told people Governor Jeb Bush would probably not be labeled a traditional Republican in today's Republican definition, right? Think about when he ran for president. He was basically said he wasn't Republican enough. Now, there were years ago when Jeb Bush was the example of Republican, right, in Florida and in America. And so when you think about things of that nature, when people say, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm tired, it's because they've lost the hope to believe that the person who's going to represent them actually cares about their issues. Mm-hmm. And I understand that. House District 9 to 8, again, in this area, Democrats right now in Florida, 78 of the 120 House members in Florida's legislature in the House are Republican, right? So they're two votes shy of supermajority, which then means that the seat that represents my household is always in the back of the chamber, right? Republicans have so many votes to where even they don't need the Democrats to even speak up in a committee meeting because they have the votes regardless of what it is. Right. The challenge with that is you can pass anything when you have the most votes. And so we talking to people, there are people, especially young people, they don't know the history of what our foreparents went through before us have the right to vote. Some of them don't even care. They don't know the history about that. So that doesn't sway them anymore, right? They don't know, they don't feel this issue affecting them in this manner, right? Because some of them they don't own homes, right? They don't have anything invested, so they're not impacted by tax structure and things of that nature. And so they're just kind of going on to get along. But then you got to look at the people who used to be voters who have steered off, to ask yourself the question, or asking the question, what happened? And typically what happened is they believed in a person or in a system that failed them, whether it's through financial impropriety, whether it's through scandal, right? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They've lost the desire to believe. And so they've kind of just given up. Most Black people put all of our hope behind President Obama because he looked like us, right? Mm-hmm. And we felt like, he's going to make a lot of changes. But we failed to realize is it's hard to make change when you are a Democratic president, but you're dealing with a Republican Congress.
Correct.
Right. But people don't understand that. What they know is that nothing really happened. Yeah. Well, nothing really happened because one of the best ways to render somebody useless is to filibuster or just drag out everything. And so when we talk about people who are, you have those conversations, we have to first meet them where they are and understand what happened, what changed, and find out what their why is. And then once you get that understanding, you start having those conversations. Now, I will tell you, it is a frustration of mine when we as a people, when we don't vote. But when I engage us in conversation, especially my Black brothers, and I ask them why they don't vote, it's a lot of reasons, but it's also a lot of pent up frustration. Mm-hmm. And some of that frustration is they're mad at us, meaning us as Black people, because we convinced them to support this candidate. This candidate cared about us, and this candidate did nothing for them, right? Because that candidate came to our church, said all the great things, they worshiped with us, quoted a few Bible verses. We didn't put our support behind them. The person wins office, we don't see him again. And so now they're mad at the pastor, they're mad at the church, and they're mad at this politician. And so their thing is, I'm not voting no more. And we start seeing that. So now when you see Republicans' numbers increasing even the more, this is why you see Republican candidates now taking bolder positions on critical race theory and things of that nature. It's because their numbers are now growing, while the Democrats' numbers are decreasing. And so they're running on certain items. If you look at what Governor DeSantis is doing, if you go back to when he's running for governor, his stump speeches, what he ran on, he's actually advocating for as governor what he ran for as candidate. What you're seeing now, though, is that you're now seeing more people winning legislative offices who are aligned with his thinking. And so now he has more champions for what he wants to get done. And so when what's happening in some of these races, they're now starting to commit themselves. Progressive Democrats are unapologetically going after city and county commission seats. That's what their focus is. Far right Republicans are going after legislative seats, right? Because it's usually a feeder to Congress, right? And so they may give up a commission or a city or county commission seat. Okay, that's cool, because that's on a local level. They want to make statewide policy changes.
Right.
And so Democrats are forfeiting a lot of these seats to run locally, and now Republicans are going and grabbing these seats it's a big difference. And so now when you're seeing things go on the books in a major way, it's because Republicans have figured out we want to make statewide changes. We don't care about local ordinance anymore. We want to make statewide changes. How do we do that? We now got to flood these races, flood the ballot box, get our people in position, and now boom, the governor just appointed former Representative Cord Byrd as Secretary of the Department of State. Cord Byrd, if you know anything about him, Cord Byrd's wife, who got appointed to the State Board of Education, she is an unapologetic supporter of the insurrection of January 6th of last year, right? She has come out and said in full support of it. Cord Byrd has been a strong supporter of President Trump unapologetically. Now, this gentleman is now Secretary of the Department of State, where the Department of State, they're over our elections, they're over the security for elections. All those things are happening. And while we are fighting over menial things, the governor is positioning people. Just today, the Supreme Court came out and said they're not going to even rule on the redistricting congressional maps the governor proposed. It means that because the appellate court overturned the circuit judge's decision, the governor's congressional map that was approved in special session now becomes the map that they begin to campaign on for November, which then means that our Tallahassee seat is no longer winnable for an Al Lawson. Now the seat that we're in now is way more Republican than it ever been before. So now Al Lawson has to decide, do I want to run for re-election or do I retire? So now you're seeing Democrats think about retirement because these seats are now way more red than ever been before. These are the things that happens when one party begins to overtake seats. They now find themselves in situations. So now they're getting things through that have major ramifications on us. And so while we're running, while we have 8 running for House District 8 seat for this one seat in the back row, we have nobody vying to run for Congress, right? We have nobody in position to run for any major races because we're still fighting over a seat in the back of the room versus demanding to be at the table. And that's the problem.
I want to put something out there too, because you said you made some great points, and we got to kind of slow it down for just a moment.
You're absolutely right. You see, I'm flowing, right? You got
man. You hit it. That's what
I'm sorry.
Let him
I'm
ride.
sorry.
There's some things that we do have to look at. Number one, you are right. There are a lot more citizens that are transitioning from not just Democrat, but Republicans as well to a non-party system. And for me, that's not a bad thing. I think what we need to look at is not the party that you're a part of, but the party or the process, the people, the policies that we actually vote for. So it's already a separation. And they want that. They want to continue to see the separation. What we need to look at is the policy, the person, the process. How is that going to benefit me? So yes, I'm a Democrat, but if I see that there's a Republican that is in line with my views, in line with what I feel may help not just me, my community, my family, my friends, I'm voting for that. Yeah. I'm voting for that because, again, you want to vote for the person that's going to put you, your community, in the best position. And sometimes that's not actually the person in your party. So we have to kind of get away from this is my party, that's my party, because what you said earlier was true. It's a game.
Yeah.
We keep losing because they'll throw in 5, 6 other people to run against this person so that they can take control of how the game is played, who's going to do what, how this is going to happen, who is a game. And we really got to get a little bit more savvy with how we look at politics. Not just I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican, I'm independent, but how is this going to benefit me, my community, my people? How is it going to help? And if that person who's in my party is not doing that, then I got to move on. I got to move on to what's right. So that's probably one of the things you said earlier. I said, we got to go back to that.
Yeah.
And then I know some other people are going to say something because I got something to say about what you said just now. So I'm going to let Doc and Lisa go.
So just to kind of chime in here, I will say that I used to be one of those people that just was like, I would vote, but I just felt like none of them, Democrat, Republican, whoever was in office, really had my best interest at heart. And I still kind of feel that way. I mean, first of all, I don't like, I have a little bit of a problem with career politicians. I think term limits should be on some stuff because you getting voted in over and over and over and over and over again. And I'm not really seeing the real change or, better, or it seemed like we're doing this thing in cycles. Like, so that's one of my issues. But conversations like this have, opened me up a little bit more. And I know that it's my responsibility. I never not knew that. But just the fact that I got to get in there and try my best to get good folks in the office. And so then we have these good folks that we think are going in the office and they do nothing. Yeah. Or they do a little bit of the opposite of what they told me they was gonna do. You know, what they promised me they was gonna do. I honestly do not understand the whole political system when you got a whole group of people over here saying guns are terrible. You're seeing all of this stuff, but you ain't worried about it. These your constituents that's getting shot up. But it's like, oh, okay, well, let's just arm the teachers now, or let's just do.
Well, they're doing that now. They're actually doing that. Let's not do
anything about what person needs an assault rifle to protect themselves? Nobody. What normal citizen needs to have an AK-47 by their bedside? Just different things like that. So when it comes to this, it heats me up because I really think that a lot of politicians are trash.
Well, when it comes to gun laws, though, Lisa,
I hate to say it like that, but sometimes that's how I feel. It's like I feel frustrated. Like, who's helping me?
Yeah, but Lisa,
we voted for you. We have campaigned for you. We have done this, and you say, "Oh, I'm trying," or it's like the whole system is really messed up. Can we just take it all down and start all over again? Can we do that?
Go ahead, Doc.
There's two things. There's two things. One thing is, in Darrick said earlier, it's about power. It's not really about doing what the constituents want. Yep. It's about doing what's necessary to maintain power.
There you go.
You know what I mean? And so when these individuals of both parties, I mean, you think about it, and I'll just use this as an example, how some individuals who couldn't stand Trump, but in order to maintain power, they did a full 180, you know what I mean? And now they're on that bandwagon because it's about what? It's about power. And I want to maintain this level of power. You know, so we have to understand that. So when you start dealing with gun laws and things like that, again, it's the same thing. But as Black Americans, we know what we need to do. It's really on us to change gun laws. Not on white America, it's on us.
Well, let me say this, not in terms of.
Let me get this out though, Franz, because you know what we need to do. Every American, Black American, need to register
on a gun
to get a gun.
Yeah.
The moment we start trying to get assault weapons, I promise you,
it will change
the laws.
Absolutely.
They would change the laws.
Okay, I'm going to gun class tomorrow.
so the moment we start doing that, and you seeing a lot of Black folk get AR-15, I promise you, they'll start changing the laws. I had one more point though, one more question for Pastor McGhee, and I'm a little upset with you, man, because you're still looking young, and I'm trying to figure out. How he still look like he's still in high school. You know what I mean?
Water and Vaseline, brother. Water and Vaseline.
But let me ask this question. When it comes to our younger generation, do you see an uptick in our younger generation registering to become Republican or what is it? Non-party affiliation, independent.
So you're seeing more younger ones going NPA, right? They're vocal about it, right? I mean, if you look at the progressive Democrats, if you break down that percentage, a lot of them are younger, right? But your NPA breakdown is younger, and here's why: because they have bore witness to the example of their parents and their grandparents. They've watched from a front row seat, and they've listened in, and they've kind of made up in their mind, I don't trust either side. I'm going this way. And here's what, when you become an NPA, this is really what you're doing. You're doing two major things. First thing is you're basically saying that I no longer subscribe to the two-party system. That's the first thing you're doing. Second thing you're doing, which I think is clever, is you're saying Democrat, Republican, now you got to come to me. Right. You got to now come to me and convince me that you're the best person to vote. And so now you're basically regaining the power. Now, do I think we'll ever have a legit third party? I don't. Right. I don't. But I do think that what we're seeing with the NPA growth, and again, going back to Governor Scott's reelection in 2014, if you look at those numbers, there was a commitment that he made. And I think, one of the reasons, if you look at that race, Governor Scott never went over a certain percentage. Like, he was always in the mid 30 percentile. Charlie Crist's numbers dropped as the race got closer to election day. With Rich Scott stayed maintained, but Rich Scott ran on really one topic, and it was jobs. That was it.
No platform.
That was all it was. It was just jobs. But what he said to people is that what Democrats and Republicans, what blacks and whites, what the rich and poor have in common, they want jobs. And that's what he stood on, right? He didn't make a lot of promises about anything else. He didn't run off his resume. He worked on jobs in that regard. And so from an NPA standpoint, they identified the hot spots of NPAs and they went after them. And when you go look at them NPAs, that's your newly registered really to your mid to upper 20s. They're in that bracket, right? You're seeing a disconnect now where a person who's a Republican, because when they first registered, their mom and or dad took them down to register. They registered with their family, as always done. You're seeing a lot of your millennials and Gen X's. They're basically bucking against the family altogether. Let me go a little further and say this too, that what I think, and one of my indictments on Democrats, just in general, is they've operated under the assumption that all blacks are going to vote for Democrats, right? So they've done little to nothing to court us and keep us. And as a result, Republicans have come in and started doing this. Now you're seeing more black Republicans registering, but also running for office in an unapologetic mindset. And you're seeing, and so then what happens is they become the mouthpiece on critical issues that have major impact in our community, right?
Even to their own detriment.
to their own detriment. I agree with that as well. And so if you look at young people, a lot of them are going NPA, and they just lost. They lost that trust, that confidence. They don't see it at all. And the more you look at things, go ahead.
You
please.
got Bernie Sanders, who has been a great component of that. I mean, he's showing them that there's a better way, and a lot of young folks, they want to see a better way. So he's advocating for that. So the more and more you have voters who are switching over to that lane, they're getting into that, hey, there is another way. We don't have to go Democrat or Republican. There's a third party. The problem with that is what you stated early, Darrick, is that now the vote is split.
Yeah.
So the people who would have voted for Democrats now say, "No, I'll just keep my vote here with the independent, or I'll keep it with the Republicans the same. I'll keep it with the Republicans." So you split it, and whoever's leading, of course, is going to win because of that split. Without that split, you may have had a Democratic governor. Yeah. Just putting that out there.
Yeah. And one of the things I think that, and ask those questions, because one of the things that I think we need to understand is that with social media, our younger population is easier to be deceived. You know what I mean? And and in some situations, in some things, it's not necessarily deceived, but it's a thing of, it's easy to target them and get them to focus and look at things a certain way.
Yep.
Because our younger generation, they don't look at truth. They look at things as popular.
I gotta stop you there for a second, Doc, because it's not just younger, it's also older.
Yeah. Well, I'm just looking at from the standpoint of but you are true, because the older population is becoming more and more attracted to social media, Facebook, and all those different things.
Yes.
So, but when we look at those, our older generation also had a set level of experiences that they still hold on to, that there are certain things that a person that's Republican, they're not, you know what I mean? Because of their experiences. This younger generation, a lot of them will say, I haven't experienced it. I've seen it, but I haven't experienced that same thing. And so they're not as locked in, so we got to understand that just because I'm Black, don't assume that what you're saying to me as a Democratic Party appeals to me. And I think that's what's happened to me. The Democratic Party, when we look at our younger generation in the middle, get to that middle age generation, it stopped saying things that appeal to us as a people, more so than, hey, we're your party. We've always been your party. We're going to make sure you have welfare. You know what I mean? We're going to make sure you have those things. And this generation, they're not looking at welfare. They're looking at job creation. They're looking at, how can I start my business? What's going to be able to help me become a successful entrepreneur? I want to make 6 figures. Now I don't want to be taxed. You know what I mean? So they're focusing on those things, knowing that, look, you're not being taxed that much now anyway, because you're not making the money. But that's the way they're thinking, because that's what's being fed to them through social media.
And again, understanding the policies, right? That's a whole different generation, who have now become educated. They're at a different bracket. They're at different points in their lives. What we have not been able, I can't say what Democrats have not been able to do, for me, watching from the outside in, is you're not capitalizing on the people that you can say, hey, this is how we can support you and how we can help you. Whereas a lot of Republicans, they were already doing that. So you have younger folks who relate because this is something that they've already campaigned on.
Yeah.
The problem is that
but they're not doing it.
Well, they are doing it. They are doing it. But the thing is, they're doing other things too. So that's what I was getting to, is like you have, sometimes we look at races, just like we just talked about DeSantis last race. A lot of people look at one piece of it. They don't look at the whole puzzle. And you miss out on opportunities that would affect, again, not just you, but the rest of your community. So if you're just looking at taxes, guess what? Now he's messing around with your insurance, your social security, your policing, your gun laws. He's messing around with all of that, but you was just focused on taxes. You see what I mean? So we got to look outside of just, oh, this is the one thing I need to focus on. We got to start playing the game a little bit more savvy.
And something you said that I think is key, though, and I want to make sure our viewing audience understands politics. Politics can be surmised in one word, and that one word you've already said many times, friend, which is it's a game, right? And so here's the game of politics: either you're playing the game, or you're being played by the game. I did a speech today. Somebody said, I said, listen, you're either at the table or you're on the table, right? Yeah. So you're at the table, you're at the table eating, or you're on the table being slaughtered. It's one or the other, right? There is no third option out there. Right. And a lot of times what happens is that we think we're playing this game and we're not, right? You're not. They invited you to the party, but you don't even realize even the invitation was a strategy. And we have to understand that
diversity and inclusion, right?
Yeah, we have to think about that, right? Like Dr. Scott mentioned about social media. Social media has been beneficial in some races, right? You can get your message out fast. But here's the counter to that. Twitter, for example, is that you're also creating attention deficit, right? People's attention span is like that now, right? So they're not going to sit long to engage in a thorough conversation on platform. People are like, for me, I go to people's websites. I read their policy papers. I want to know what they're actually running on. We don't do that anymore right now. So what's happening now is
nothing.
Exactly. What he had was when he won the primary, Adam Putnam was the supposed to be Republican candidate. Same thing when Governor Scott won in 2010, right? Supposed to have been Bill McCullum. A President Trump tweet changed the game, right? And that tweet showed also the power of a President Trump endorsement. But fast forward now over 4 years, Governor DeSantis is now doing endorsements for races. And guess what you're seeing? His endorsement has heavy weight in races. People are now not even seeking re-election anymore or bottling out races because the governor endorsed the other person. Yep. They're backing out because the money and everything is shifting, right? So that those are the positive. The negatives is that we have to get back to a point. I'm saying we, meaning Black people, get back to the point where we are no longer willing to accept crap. So when Lisa mentioned about, not trusting any of them, not doing anything, there's some truth to that, right? But what happens is, so I get a chance to sit on candidate interviews, people running for the House and Senate, things of that nature. And I have to refrain from laughing out loud, right? Because everybody who's running, they're going to shake up the world. They're going to win, get to Tallahassee. They're going to pass great laws. They're going to do great things. And I sit there as somebody who's done it for a long time thinking to myself, you have no idea how Tallahassee works. Right. Tallahassee is a top-down system. Right. It's not a bottom-up, right? You're told how to vote. If you don't vote according to instruction, you are then positioned or placed in the back as a punishment, right? And so you're told. People don't realize when they get up here, some of the good ones who have a genuine heart and for all the right reasons, they eventually say, you know what, I can't do this anymore. And they bow out early because they don't like the way the system is set up.
If you just go in the Capitol, and sit, and that blows me away because I've been in the Capitol, sat down, listened to some of the rhetoric. I'm like, y'all getting paid to do this? I picked the wrong.
Well, friends, guess what though? Here's the thing though. Let's make everybody know. Dr. Scott said it earlier. It's about power. Here's what I tell you: it's about power.
It is
because they only make, and I want to be careful about saying only, but a legislator makes $29,500 cap, right, for this job. It's supposed to be a part-time position. So then why are you doing this? You're not doing this for $29,500. Nope. You're doing it for the power you garner,
and not just this power. Power gives you influence. Right,
and influence, right?
And so that's the last crazy governor who was a crook, a thief, a liar, stole people's health care benefits, and now he's in the Senate. What's his name?
That's Rick Scott.
Rick Scott, Cricket Rick. I mean, the craziness.
Listen, Pretty Ricky, what they call him.
Already, you already know you was in the wrong, but he got in.
Yeah,
and they gave him the governor's race, and now
you know why though? But here's what's important about what you're saying though. I think is so key. We, as a people, we aren't forgiving, right? White America, they will forgive their own and then position you to win a seat. We won't do that. We're going to remind you 10 years later. Marion Barry is a rare example of a Black person get caught up in a scandal and can run later and win their office. Think about Kwame Kilpatrick, right?
But there's a difference. There's a little difference. They got in and started doing the work. Rick
that's true too.
Wasn't even in. This dude was already doing dirt. He was already doing dirt. And when he got in, what he did was he's positioned not just his companies, his wife's companies, his interests were benefiting. So
that is the American way.
Come on, that's exactly
the American way.
Saying so you
come over here, you steal some land, you steal some people to work the land, you steal this to I'm never surprised about stuff like this. It's the American way,
and that's why I'm like, I wanted to hit this up because you brought it up earlier, and I said I gotta tap back into it. It's my guy, Barack Obama, President Barack Obama. Yes, I think he did some great things, but how much more could he have done? And that's when it comes back down to the Game of Thrones type of thing. So if y'all haven't watched it, GOT, Game of Thrones, this is about power, position, how I'm going to put myself, my family, in a better place than they were. Granted, things were done, but there are a lot more things that he could have done. Places that he could have put our, let's just say, Black community in a better position, but was not. Yes, there are a lot of issues that forbade him to do that, but there are some things that he could have done. Jesse, we saw it just last year, and even they're pushing it this week, the anti-Asian hate crime. What happened to the Black anti-crime law? What? I mean, what happened to that law? They didn't need to pass nothing. Biden just said, hey, we're going to put this in place, and they put it in place.
I think they just passed the lynching as a hate crime.
Lynch, kill, taking advantage of for all means. And you now, what you only do because of the pressures of what you was hearing. Oh, we did something for the Asian folks. Well, we got to do something for the Black folks.
Listen.
I'm not going to take away from the fact that, again, what we need to do is prepare. So that midterm election, that the Democrats lost during Barack's second term was detrimental because now you take away all the legs and there's nothing you could really do. So we really got to be, again, in position. We got to think smarter. We got to think ahead. We only think about what's happening right now.
But I think that goes back to, we have to begin to speak to the issues that matter to the people we want to vote. We're speaking to a lot of issues that at the end of the day doesn't help us as a people, doesn't move us along in any kind of way. But they attach it to where we are, and then they want us to vote for that, support that, watch that rise, and then we still are in the same place. How is it that one group is moving to a place where you're creating all these different things for them, and it's like, wait a minute, they're riding on everything we do. We got Juneteenth, and then they using June for their Pride Month. You follow what I'm saying? And that may not feed to all of our issues, but those are things that a lot of times we may feel like this party is pushing. So it's like we have to begin to speak to the issues and keep those issues in front of the people that we want to vote. and speak to those issues and then begin to see some of those things happen. Because if not, you're going to find yourself in a place where everybody may not be going Republican, but you're not going to have enough Democratic votes to win any seats.
I think the other piece to that, Doc, is what we said earlier. We got to be more educated. Darrick said it earlier. You got to go in, read what they stand on, read what their policies are, and then hold them to the fire.
That's some good writers.
That's the problem right there. You got to hold them to the fire. And unfortunately, the problem that we also run into is that it's more than one issue. We kind of said it earlier.
Yeah.
You got several issues.
Yeah.
So now, how do you balance that? You got, I mean, again, we would have had a different governor if he would have just made one change or one let's amend what we said in terms of the school policy. Let's change that up a little bit, and you would have had a whole different governor off of one issue.
But if that's something that you believe in, that our public schools can get better, if you don't support them, if you don't feed them, if you don't nurture them. So why would he tweak how he felt about that?
Well, he didn't tweet that. That was part of his policies. That's something he was running on. The problem is that, again, you got to look at all of the tires. So I can't just focus on that one tire if this other tire got a problem. I got to check all my tires before I get on the highway. And what I've seen over and over again, you got people who only check one piece. You got to look at it all and say, okay, you know what? I'm willing to give up this or change this so that, again, I get the greater win. We don't do that.
But
you gotta.
And what Francis is saying is that's the game.
That's the game.
That's the game.
That's the game.
You know, earlier this week or last week, I forget, but Francis to say that all the time. If you don't play the game, you're gonna get played.
If you don't know how to play,
and I would be like, oh, that's not true. That's not true. But I was sitting there talking with my dean the other day, and I was like, you know what? I gotta go back to France and say, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So we have, I don't know how it's done. I don't know how we gonna learn it. I don't even know. But it feels like we have to get in there and play it, learn to play it, and play it like they play it.
At least Darrick said it earlier. I literally went into that chamber and was like, we already lost.
Listen,
you got
the numbers are bad.
This system is so set up already.
But see,
in my opinion, I say just burn the whole thing down and let's start from scratch.
Listen, we have to learn how to be as wise as a serpent.
Correct.
And harmless as a dove.
Yep,
that's right. I mean, that's part of our problem is we know there's a game. We know the game is being played, but we refuse to play it in an effective manner in order to be successful.
Because we know what the game is. We know the game is unfair, but we got to play the game.
You know what I mean? It's almost like I know you were victimized, but I can't allow you to stay with a victim mindset. I gotta get you to keep moving. You know what I'm saying? And that's where we are. We know things ain't right, and we know, we have to work hard, and you're going after government.
Harder.
Yeah, well, harder, yeah. I mean, you're going after government contracts, and you got to jump through different hoops that another business,
just go to the golf course and take care of it.
But you can't get the victim mindset and say, man, I got to jump through all these hoops, so I just quit. No, you got to do whatever you got to do so that you can get that spot. And once you get that spot, a firecracker on the outside of your hand doesn't do as much damage than if you put it on the inside. You know what I mean? You as long as we're on the outside, hey, they got us. You know what I mean?
What, though, Marvin? I think what is, I mean, and all jokes aside, y'all, I think what is disheartening is here we are in 2022 and we're still having to have this conversation, to go this way. I think that's the disheartening part. When I think about our politicians that have been on the grind, whatever, and yet we are still fighting this system.
And Lisa, I said this when Barack won the race. I'm gonna say the night he won the race. I tweeted it. I could go back because it's on Twitter, it's on Facebook, every social media platform I had. I put this out there. I said we already got to start thinking about the next 8 years, the next 16 years, it's something that you can't just stop and play. If you in the game, you got to be in the game. This thing don't stop. It's just an ongoing thing. And that's how, out in the chamber, Darrick, you can attest to it. I'm like looking around. First, I'm hearing the craziness that's happening on the floor. That's number one. Yeah. But number two, I see the decades of just slapping your face. It's number white men on the wall telling you this is how it's gonna run. Mm-hmm. This is how you gonna move. And if you don't move this way, we got a spot for you. You can sit in the corner. Mm-hmm. Oh, you don't like the way this is going? We could change it up so that your voice is not even heard anymore. So you do have people who get elected and then they get pulled into that system because they want to say something. They want to do something, but they can't because again, you don't have enough leverage.
It's the system.
Yeah. You don't have enough.
So
this system is jacked.
A few years ago, my wife and I got some trees in our yard removed. And while they were there, I had a bush in the back corner of my yard. And I asked the guys if they could remove it. He removed it for free. And he said to me, Mr. McGhee, he said, I'll remove it for free. He was like, here's my advice, though. You need to go to the store and buy a certain chemical. You need to drill holes in there and spray in there. He said, otherwise, although we pulled up this bush, if you don't do what I'm telling you to do, it's going to come back. I said, okay. The guy left. And because I didn't see it, I didn't really follow his instructions. Weeks go by, months go by, I don't see anything, doesn't bother me. All of a sudden now, as far as it poked back up again. If I go out to my backyard now, what he told me 2 years ago is now back in full force. Right. Because the fruits, which is the visible, I wasn't seeing for a period of time. But what he was telling me is all I've done is I've knocked off what you can visibly see above ground. You got to go into the ground and kill it at the source. I bring that analogy up.
This is not Sunday morning. This is not Sunday morning.
But Lisa makes a good point.
A sermon. I love it.
When she's saying burn down the whole building, the thing that has to happen is this. You have to go back and begin to examine and interrogate and begin to ask those critical questions, right? It's for those who are registered Democrats for many years, there's a reason why you chose to be a Democrat, chose to be a Republican. What was it? If you go back to Republican history, right? Ronald Reagan created the 11th commandment. 11th commandment was thou shalt not speak ill against another Republican, right? But that commandment is no longer in existence if you look at it from that standpoint, right? But everybody was running as a Ronald Reagan Republican when they ran for state office because Ronald Reagan was the epitome of a conservative Republican. When you ran for governor in Florida at the Jeb left, you want to run as a Jeb Bush Republican, right? Jeb was the model. And so people knew what that model was, right? And so now it's not there anymore. So now you're seeing this veering off, right? And veering off and veering off and veering off. And people have seen it. They notice it coming. They watched it come. It's not my business. All of a sudden now it is exploding. It was mentioned earlier, and I want to say it now. Based on the polls that I have seen and the projections that I have seen, this November, it is projected, especially for Congress, right, that Republicans are going to take back over Congress. That's what the numbers I am seeing. And on U.S. Senate, right, it's already 50-50. right? Now you just had Herschel Walker win, the Republican nominee for U.S. Senate. He's running against a brother, right? He's running against Warnock for that seat, right? If that goes, if
Herschel Walker just wins,
football player,
he's a Trump Republican. So he just won, and he won Georgia off of a Trump endorsement. Right, he's unapologetic. But my point of that is
that's what I was looking for. Unapologetic.
You're about to see, based on projections, a shifting. So now, if Biden's not doing anything now, he really gonna be able to do anything at the November if the Republicans take back over, because now they're going to definitely make sure that all of his stuff gets halted. It gets stopped. The one thing that I was telling to my wife yesterday or today, the one thing that Biden campaigned on that he actually has delivered to date is a Black woman on the Supreme Court.
Yep.
Short of that, nothing else he's running on thus far has come to fruition, right? Because it sounds good when you campaign on it. And now we don't realize that presidents don't write laws, right? And so these were your friends when you were a U.S. Senator Biden. Now that you're President Biden, their number one goal is to make you look silly. They're going to make sure that you don't get any victories at all. So then you bring it to the state of Florida. Here's what I say this in many conversations. What statewide Republicans in Florida do a really good job of, they have a starting five and a bench. What Democrats do is they recycle candidates. Case in point, Charlie Crist has run for governor 4 times in Florida. And he's run 3 of those 4 times as a Democrat, a Republican, and an independent. But guess what? He's going to end up being the nominee, because people are familiar with him, because he's very charismatic, but there is no substance under Charlie Crist. But the problem is, it's a recycled candidate. And so there is no young core being trained and matured and nurtured and prepared. So now for Republican, if Ron DeSantis tomorrow says I'm not running for re-election for governor, I can assure you before the clock strikes 0, you're going to have at least 5, if not 10 people who will be vetted by the Republican Party as potential candidates right now. When his term is up in 2026, assuming he wins re-election, you're going to have a lot of Republicans who are right now positioning today to be able to run. And I will tell everybody,
Joe Biden was recycled.
Remember the name Byron Donalds. Byron Donalds is a Florida. He's a Black Republican, he went to FAMU, he graduated from FSU. But he lives in Naples, Florida, Black Republican. Byron Donalds has the great chance of being the first Black governor of Florida, but he'll be a Black Republican, right? People are running for office today for one real reason, is to build up name identification so they can run for governor in 2026 on an open ticket. So Republicans are doing. What Democrats are doing is they're going through the old system and they're finding that person, they're grabbing that person. You talk to your traditional Democrats, what they'll tell you, I don't want Charlie Crist, because we know we're going to get with Charlie Crist. The problem is nobody else will run. And so in the governor's race right now, Charlie Crist and Nikki Fried combined may have $15 million. Ron DeSantis right now is sitting on a little over $100 million.
Yep.
There is no way in a money race you can compete. Now, Randy, a lot of that money is for the assumption he's going to run for president in 2024. The fact of the matter is that he's winning the money game.
Right.
What money means, you have the chance to advance your message large and wide. And guess what, y'all? He's not even tapping into that money.
Nope.
You know why? Because the other 2 candidates are not threats to him. So he's going to possibly walk into re-election with the largest percentage of victory in Florida's history, because neither one of these candidates are a legit threat to him. And this is also why people are saying, man, I don't feel like voting, because they keep seeing the same recycled candidates coming over and over again. Nobody looks like us. And so now your young core who ought to be getting trained and prepared, they're not even being invited to the conversation.
Yeah. And Darrick, I got to put this out. It's not just who looks like us, but
true.
It's the mindset of us. It's the mindset of us. Like you said, there's some other Black Republicans who may have some good ideas and some good things that coming in. But again, I'm very weary, because again, where's your mindset? Herschel Walker, listen, You know he don't got no sense. I can say that out loud in public. You don't got no sense. It's not your race to run. This is not your race. But again, because he can follow directions and listen to what Daddy tell him to do, and he just gonna follow through with it. I'm gonna go back to make sure you understand who Daddy is. Daddy Trump or Daddy whoever got the most money tell him what to do. He's gonna follow it, and that's the other thing that we have to be very wary of as a Black community. Listen, money is important, right?
Yeah,
and
money
talks. Money
everything else
talk. But we got to also understand that our voice can talk louder, right? And then that's how we have to win this game. We can't just allow people to buy us out and buy our votes and buy our process. And that's what's happened to me watching Herschel Walker and others like him. They let people buy them out, and then they follow along with whatever they have to say. And then here we are, not just we, I'm talking about the collective. People say, oh, he looks like me.
Well, see,
he talks like me. So you know what? I'm gonna go for this. This person has no
and I think
benefit for you.
I think at the end of the day, we got to stop allowing whoever it is to sell us the dream of a supply of fish.
There you go.
And instead of giving us the lake, and we can own the lake and the fish. So we're getting tired of hearing, hey, we're going to make sure we give you just basically this consistent handout versus, look, I'm tired of giving a handout. Why don't you give me a true seat at the table and a slice of the pie, and I'll put my own hand in, get what I want out. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's where we are now. You know what I mean?
You said it earlier, Doc. Rev said it earlier. They don't want to give you the lake. They want to keep control of the lake. I'll give you a little piece of something, but you're not going to get this lake. And unfortunately, we're not playing savvy enough to say, okay, we not only could take the lake, we could take the land too. Hence, we started off with MLK earlier. For me, him understanding how to play the game is what got him killed.
Absolutely.
Next, him understanding how to play the game. Once they started saying, "Oh, you understand a little," when Malcolm was able to tell the police department to get out the way. This is Malcolm X now. To get out the way, because we need to find out what's happening to our guy that y'all beat up in the hospital, and we ain't going until we find out. They knew there was a problem.
In that movie, if you recall, there was a part in the movie where at the jail scene where Malcolm stands, lifts his hand and points, and the men turn and walk off. And the white cop says the best phrase of the line of the movie that he says, that's too much power for one man. And that's that, and we have to and that's everything you said is so true, right? But at the end of the day, though, it's still a game, and we have to understand that it's absolutely a game, and we have to also, and I want to make sure I conclude with this. We have to make sure that we have to discontinue allowing the game to pin us against each other.
Correct.
Right, because that's also happening even from the clergy standpoint right now. We're pinned up against each other because we've been swayed to believe that this person is going to do right by me, and so all of a sudden now we lock in with them, and then nothing comes out of it, and all of a sudden now what's happening is there's so much tension, so much division, and there's been no results whatsoever at all, and that happens because our vote was for sale. And somebody came in and lured us.
JFK was another one because he understood how the game was played. They changed the game even then. Even to this day, the president doesn't have full say on. We just talked about it. President has no full say on what's going. We took out JFK because of that. He had too much power. So we gotta pull it around so that you don't know where we're gonna get you at. You looking at one hand gun laws. We just took all your money.
Well,
just went up. We not here. I'm sorry.
Listen. Darrick D. McGhee Sr.,
And it's 10:15.
It seems that you're gonna have to come back.
Happy to do it. This is my topic right here. We can do this all night.
And bring a little gray hair with you.
France will not be quiet, but he usually runs our show over anyway because he just.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Listen, oh my gosh, it's so crazy because this is such the topic that you really could just keep going and going and going and going and going.
Unfortunately, not a lot of us are having this discussion.
Right.
And that's why this discussion
and that's why
important.
that is why we talk about voting so much.
Yeah.
I think we at least hit it 3-4 times a year, if not more.
Yeah. That's why. That's why.
Because it is very important. We need to keep it in the forefront. Do not okay, I'm gonna get a little, I'm a Christian. Do not what were you using? Unapologetically. Unapologetically, I am a Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ. Don't get weary in the well doing.
Come on now.
Hey.
And when I say it, I gotta speak to myself because sometimes this politics thing be like, but whatever. But we have to get out. We have to do our research. We have to make sure that we're going to the ballot box for all of the elections.
Yes.
Not just the presidential, not just the governor, but all of them, especially on your local levels, because it affects our day-to-day so much. So I do know that some states have already had their primaries. Some states' primaries are coming up. Florida's primary is in August, the best month of the year. So we have to be vigilant about this. And we have to speak up. And this is the way we speak up to this is voting. This is the way we speak up. And again, like France said, hold your people that you've elected, hold them accountable, get in their faces. Don't be mean, but do whatever we need to do to make sure this is what you said you were going to do. And we waiting, we waiting on you to get it done. Again, I'm not going to say that. Anyway, it's been nice. This has been Kitchen Talk, CTC.
Conversations that cook.
And that is what they definitely do. Pastor D, we certainly appreciate you coming and hanging out with us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Trust me, you will get another email.
Yes, ma'am. I look forward to it.
Hey, Darrick, just bring some gray hair with you, man. At least some gray hair, bro. Come on, man.
Nah,
I'm like, God, he's still like he in high school.
We needed to stay young. We got another generation.
Listen, my wife is watching and she's hating everything you saying right now, Dr. Scott, because she gets so sick and tired of people saying that. But I'm loving it all, brother. Keep it coming.
Stay young. Stay young.
Marvin, the Dr. Marvin Scott. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And my guy, Fransley Moist. We've been riding this wave, friends. We've been riding this wave for a minute, and I am enjoying every minute of it. We will be back next week. Also, get ready. We're getting ready to do our summer subscriber campaign again this year, so be on the lookout for that. We do have another book that we're going to read, and it is about the great coach Jake Gaither. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome.
Talk about learning how to play the game.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Absolutely. So thank you guys for hanging out with us. I apologize for friends for keeping us over the time.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. That's right.
Keeping us over the time. It has been a wonderful show. Thank you all for hanging out with us. If you are watching us on Facebook or YouTube, Facebook, hit the like button. YouTube, hit the subscribe button so you won't miss another show. We are super excited to bring you this talk as always right here on this platform, Facebook and YouTube live. So this has been really, really interesting. And I'm sure we will do this again very soon. Because we got stuff to do, y'all. We got work to do.
Right. That's right.
That's the bottom line.
Got a lot of work to do.
Listen, the word say you gotta stay in the garden. The weeds gonna keep growing back. You got to cut them. Darrick done bought us a message, y'all. Listen.
Oh my goodness. So thank you all so much, and we will see you next week. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night.